part of me feels like this modern age, if I, put it in quotes, maybe, this modern age of health and wellness, I think for a lot of people, it can get to be overwhelming. It can get to be, wow, whereas 20 years ago, maybe there were a dozen supplements on the shelf. Now there's 400 supplements on the shelf, when I go to a store. And how on earth do I make how do I as an everyday average guy become educated enough to know what I should, what do I need, what I should need, and what I should take? So kind of distilling all that down, like for your average person, we're talking a lot about CBD because that's the focus, of the store, of course, and the industry, in India that we're working in. But just in general, like, let's say if you're speaking just to an average individual, average all across the board, like, what do you think are the four most popular supplements not most popular, sorry, the four most important supplements that someone should take? And then in addition, what are the couple of just most important, just daily wellness practices someone should have aside from supplements? So I'm curious, just if you're trying to simplify it down, hey, if someone listens to this and they walk away, just remembering anything, these are the top four-ish, supplements that probably would be good for someone's long-term health. And these are the top couple of just daily wellness things that everyone maybe should do.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Well stated, and a very good question. I think we're smothered with a lot of misinformation. And
Totally.
so when you talk about supplements, there's different supplements that are categorized, adaptogens and vitamins and minerals and how they affect it. Let's say that, and obviously I've studied this my whole life. So, I'm always learning. It's not like, wow, I know everything. No, not at all. I look at the research. Okay, I should know more about that. So someone who's coming in there and they're getting overwhelmed by our conversation and all the super duper terms I've thrown out. I think what I would first ask, and I'm gonna buy these supplements because I think Dave Scott brought up this really important thing. How does it affect your whole body? How does it affect your whole body? So some just affect certain areas. So it's like a drug. Well, this will affect your heart. I look at, first off, how does it affect all my organs? And so the first on the list is I want a fat soluble X that's going to affect all my organs. In other words, it's contained in I'll give you an example. It's like a phospholipid, and it's going to affect my brain, my kidneys, my liver, my pancreas, my bile. And it's going to permeate all my aqueous membranes, my eye, the inside of my mouth, my lips. So now we're talking about a supplement that covers your whole body. It's like taking a shower in it. Number one on my list is krill omega-3, and not omega-3 mixed cold water fish. And there's lots of great cold water fish. People think of salmon, and that's one of many, sardines, anchovies. But krill.
Yeah, why krill? Yeah.
Well, because it's contained in what's called a phospholipid, and the phospholipid can move. It permeates water and fat soluble membranes, so it can move through your system very, very quickly, and it will be absorbed by all your organs. When we have mixed omega-3s, where they're putting in gills and esophaguses and everything else and chopped up, and they say it's omega-3 and it's lots of different sources, we don't get it in the phospholipid. The krill is the densest form, and it also has an antioxidant that's in there, which is number 2 on my list, which is called astaxanthin, and I'll spell it.
Ooh,
ASTAXAN, and then thin, THIN, ASTAXANTHIN. I was taking astaxanthin before I get a paycheck from a company called BioAstin. It's actually made, it's a cold water algae that's grown. It's grown right on the Kona coast. It's on the Ironman course. And I was taking, because I said the potency of this antioxidant, and it's fat soluble as well. My criteria is, and I said it's found in omega-3s, particularly salmon sources. It's very, very high because the salmon eat the krill, and the krill contains the astaxanthin, and the pink of the salmon is the astaxanthin in there. So it's good for your heart, it's good for your joints, it's good for your muscles, it's good for your brain. So I love astaxanthin. I've been taking this for a long time, and it's one that you guys should look into. It's beautiful. I have a link on my website to BioAstin. You can read all about it. That's number two. Number three probably wouldn't fall on a lot of people's lists, and I use this a lot, even though you may be outside like I am for many hours during the day, and we think our absorption of vitamin D3 is very, very high, but it's not, because of the environment that we live in. And so a lot of people's vitamin D3 levels, which act like a hormone, they affect every cell in your body, are too low. And if you're getting a blood test, in the States, they've dumbed them down, so you can't even get D3 as a simple blood test. But everyone should have their vitamin D3 levels checked, and it should be above 60 nanograms per milliliter. So the vitamin D3, because it affects every system, endocannabinoid, endocrine, urinary, circulatory, respiratory, it affects all your system. That's kind of my third one on my list. Vitamin D3 is synergistic with vitamin K2, so you have to take it at the same time. And magnesium, and the form of magnesium called magnesium threonate, threonate, is the only form of magnesium, based on data, that is fat soluble. So that's kind of an extended list. I kind of sort of gave you 3, 4, 5, but omega-3 astaxanthin, vitamin D3, along with vitamin K2 and magnesium.
And of course, CBD, top of the list, of course.
Well, yeah, and the the nice thing is that they're synergistic. You put CBD with, and you guys know this, you put this with fat soluble.
Yeah,
it's it's huge. You had another part to your question, like what?
Well, the other part is the non-supplement stuff, and of course there's the diet, right? Okay, and there could be a whole conversation about less saturated fats, less sugars. I think a lot of people are getting that, but let's say it is more like what's the couple key takeaways of just general healthy lifestyle. So if someone remembers a couple things every day. Whether it's breathing, whether it's stretching, whether it's a bit of cardio. What do you think are those absolutes? Hey, everyone out there, no matter where you live in the world, should be doing these couple of things every day.
Very good question. I think there's a couple things. If we look at age decline that people have, and we look at, and I think Vanish, you brought this up, in Boulder where I live, we have a lot of skinny fat people. In other words, we have athletic people that have lost their muscle mass, and we see over every decade, particularly in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and on up, where people lose muscle mass. And when they lose muscle mass, it's called sarcopenia. When we have the sarcopenia, loss of muscle mass, that affects balance and symmetry, body movement. So per your question, Blake, first thing that people should do is that they can do simple strength exercises, a push-up, downward, upward dog, a yoga move, where they're taking the exercise to hardy fatigue. You need to fatigue the muscle to get the benefit. And it produces a very, very favorable kind of protein called a myokine. So when people are doing exercise and they say, oh, I'm 65 years old, I'm using my age or close to, I say, okay, are you doing anything exercise-wise while you're out on your walk where you're doing something that you're going to fatigue? What's an example? Walk up and down stairs, or just up, down, and be nice and solid and square, and draw your belly in, keep your neck in a neutral position, work your gluteals and your legs and your core at the same time. A step up is an easy example. A push-up, or even push-ups from your knees, where you do a partial push-up and you're taking it to hardy fatigue. Doing 2 to 3 sets is huge, and so you can maintain muscle mass. 2 is, in conjunction with this, is mobility. And mobility is general movement that you have in a joint. And there's 3 big ones. Your shoulder joint. If I reach up and I'm grabbing something on a shelf and I reach high, and all of a sudden I think, oh gosh, I feel it pulling my shoulder, my back. I feel this in my neck. I can feel it radiating through my head. Very common. Increase that range of motion just by reaching up to the top of the door, stretching. So you're stretching your pecs. I was pecking on you earlier, because your pecs affect your overhead. This is shoulder flexion. When your arm is reaching overhead, shoulder flexion. Shoulders, number 1. the middle part of your spine, your thoracic spine, having rotation from side to side, and I'm doing it on camera, where I'm just twisting, even doing twist motions and sort of bending down, where you're not doing everything in the sagittal plane, you're doing this transverse plane, keeping your thoracic spine rotation so your low back and your neck don't take the load, your lumbar and cervical spine don't get the abuse, and getting thoracic spine length. Hang from a tree limb, hang from a tree limb and see if you can stretch everything out. You know, and if you're just starting, just put your toes on the ground, come up on your tiptoes and reach up and hang there for a minute. Shake your arms out, do it again, do it again. Extension and rotation of thoracic spine. The last one's your hips. And so those are the big three: shoulders, thoracic spine, hips. And your hips, and Vanish, you know this well from your MMA days, range of motion in your hips is huge. And even just making, as you're out for a walk, you drawing your knee up in flexion, externally rotating your knee, making a big circle with that leg and doing it on one leg. So if I'm standing on my left leg, let's say I'm standing on the side of the curb, and I'm swinging my right leg around in the biggest circle possible. And then I'm spreading my legs out real wide and I'm squatting down as low as I can. So I'm getting my bum down near the ground. And you're rocking side to side. Cricket players do that well. As you're getting down low and you're elongating the muscles in your hamstring and your leg, but you're really getting mobility in your hips. So those are kind of the big two.
Sideways torque.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm
Awesome.
I'm kind of nuts about that, and I think Blake, you're easy one to pick on. If you're just going to the gym and you're not increasing your range of motion, you will get tighter and tighter, and you can be strong as an ox, but your range of motion is going to be the